Good evening and welcome to Crossroads. Folks, President Joe Biden is now being accused of money laundering and influence peddling. And interestingly, this is the latest chapter in the Hunter Biden scandal, where the president's son was suspected already of selling his father's influence to foreign governments and to foreign businesses. Now, on Wednesday, members of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, they held a press conference. And in that, they detailed what they described as a complex money laundering scheme involving payments from several foreign governments to the Biden family. It turns out as well, this is not just about Joe and his son Hunter. The committee members claimed the payments have been going to dozens, well, close to a dozen, members of the Biden family. And they also claim the Biden family was taking steps to conceal the funds. During the press conference, committee chairman, Representative James Comer, he declared this is an investigation into President Joe Biden. And this flies in the face of many establishment news outlets which have actually repeatedly been claiming that the case is just on Hunter and that it has nothing to do with Joe Biden. Watch this.
I want to be clear. This committee is investigating President Biden and his family's shady business deals that capitalize on Joe Biden's public office and risked our country's national security.
Now, this is interesting. This committee has only had its subpoena powers for the last 4 months. They moved very quickly on this. But in that time, they've already been able to subpoena the banks, and in order to uncover multiple LLCs that the Biden family was allegedly using in this whole scheme. Now, Comer claims that many of the payments took place when Joe Biden was vice president. That was under Barack Obama, of course. And he said this.
First instance, while Vice President Biden was lecturing Romania on anti-corruption policies, in reality, he was a walking billboard for his son and family to collect money. Hunter Biden and his associates capitalized on a lucrative financial relationship with a Romanian national who was under investigation for and later convicted of corruption in Romania. The Bidens received over $1 million for the deal. And 16 of the 17 payments to their associates' account that funneled the Bidens' money occurred while Joe Biden was vice president. In fact, the money stops flowing from the Romanian national soon after Joe Biden leaves the vice presidency. This is a pattern of influence peddling.
That was just one of them, and it wasn't just Romania either. It was payments tied to China, payments tied to Russia, to Ukraine, to Kazakhstan, to Mexico, to Oman, and to other countries as well. Epoch Times reporter Mark Tapscott was actually on the scene at this press conference. He noted that in a memorandum of the findings from the House committee doing the investigation, it was explained how this scheme allegedly works. And here's what it says. It says Biden family members and business associates created a web of over 20 companies. Most of these were limited liability companies, LLCs, formed during Joe Biden's presidency, vice presidency. It also says this. Bank records show that the Biden family, their business associates, and their companies received over $10 million from foreign nationals' companies. The committee has identified payments to the Biden family members from foreign companies while Joe Biden served as vice president and after he left public office. It adds that after Biden left office, notably as vice president under Obama, the Biden family actually shifted from using the web of those 20 companies to instead using a web of other companies, business associates to receive the money. Now, these payments were given over a course of time to different bank accounts. And the memorandum actually further states this. It says, these complicated financial transactions appear to conceal the source of the funds and reduce the conspicuousness of the total amounts made to the Biden bank accounts. It says as well that Chinese nationals and companies with significant ties to Chinese intelligence and the Chinese Communist Party hid the sources of the funds by layering domestic limited liability companies, LLCs. And speaking of China, the committee raised some really serious concerns over Joe Biden's ties to certain Chinese nationals.
This includes two individuals the committee is particularly concerned about. One of them, Xi Jinping, had close ties to the highest levels of the Chinese Communist Party and operated a multi-billion-dollar energy company with access to large sums of money. We'll discuss how the Bidens received millions of dollars from this individual through the use of shell companies and wire transfers.
Now, Representative Comer notes that back in March, the House committee released its first memorandum on the bank records, which alleged that Rob Walker, a Biden associate, used his company to funnel money between Chinese connections and members of the Biden family. And Comer notes that Democrats have been shown the bank records. They've seen it. And he alleged that Democrats misrepresented the findings. Watch.
Democrats said all the bank records showed were Papa John's and Starbucks receipts. They deliberately chose to misconstrue and deny what was clearly in front of them. Hunter Biden's representatives claimed the money was, quote, good faith seed funds, but could not explain why those funds had to go through an intermediary in what appears to be an attempt to hide the transfers from the Chinese. They also couldn't explain why the Bidens received over $1 million in 16 different wire transfers over a period of 3 months to at least 5 different banks.
Now, Representative Comer noted that when President Biden was asked about this previously, that Biden claimed it was not true. The memorandum actually notes that in October of 2020, President Biden stated in a televised presidential debate, in fact, let me show you the clip we're referring to right here.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China. I have not had, the only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
He didn't receive money from China? Well, folks, let me show you the other side, and you be the judge. Watch this.
The Bidens have received millions of dollars from China. It is inconceivable that the president did not know it. The White House refuses to correct the president's statements, showing the president is now using the federal government to run interference for his families and his own role in these schemes.
Whew. Now, even beyond this, the accusation that Biden is using the federal government as a tool in this alleged scheme, that's pretty major. Now, it's especially when you factor in all the other claims that the government and legal systems under Biden are being manipulated to serve party interests. Now, remember, the House of Representatives also has a committee right now investigating what they call the weaponization of government, and it's looking into that specifically. And as if by clockwork, the Department of Justice appeared to interfere with the press conference on the allegations against Joe Biden and his family, the one we're talking about right now. As we discussed previously, remember, Representative Comer and others had stated publicly that they were in the process of requesting a document from the Department of Justice and from the FBI, which they said shows that Joe Biden was taking foreign money in exchange for policy when he was vice president. Now, the FBI and the Department of Justice, they were alerted that the committee would be holding its press conference today to detail their findings on this in the morning. So what did the Department of Justice do? And again, it's under Attorney General Merrick Garland. What did they do? Well, they appeared to launch a well-timed distraction. And here it is. At the same time that the committee detailed its findings on Joe Biden and his family's shady business deals, the DOJ unsealed charges against Republican George Santos. And the 13-count indictment against him accuses Santos of crimes that include wire fraud, theft of public funds, and money laundering. And while I think most of us would agree that politicians should face charges if they're guilty of a crime, just like everyone else, but the decision on the timing the DOJ had on this had the direct effect of covering up the findings on the Biden family. And this was actually evident on the, just big media's non-coverage of the issue. While the press conference was being shown live about Joe Biden and his family, CNN, for example, was instead running live coverage of the George Santos charges. They shifted the focus. On Wednesday morning, for example, the New York Times website had 3 stories on George Santos as its lead stories. After that were stories on COVID. After that were several stories accusing Trump of various scandals. And there were no stories to be found on the homepage about the scandals of Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or the House press conference. And that same incident, same picture basically, that was similar on other establishment news sites. NBC News, for example, they had 3 articles on George Santos as the lead, alongside stories on immigration and then some more natural disasters. They had a single story on the allegations against Joe and Hunter Biden, but it showed up several sections later on the home page. Again, folks, the story is newsworthy. News outlets should be covering it. George Santos, on this case. A public official possibly being involved in a crime should get public attention. But should that cancel out major allegations of actually similar crimes, money laundering, against the sitting president of the United States? And why would the Department of Justice time this case at the exact moment the evidence would be shown to the public on Biden? Well, in other words, the DOJ provided the Biden family with the perfect distraction. And on the note of George Santos on that, he was arrested the same day on federal criminal charges. He was also set to appear before court the same afternoon. U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, that's Breon Peace, he said in a statement, taking together the allegations in the indictment, charged Santos with relying on repeated dishonesty and deception to ascend to the halls of Congress and enrich himself. He used political contributions to line his pockets, unlawfully applied for unemployment benefits that should have gone to New Yorkers who had lost their jobs due to the pandemic, and lied to the House of Representatives. It should, of course, be noted that House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy said that it's still being decided whether Santos is going to be removed from Congress, again, as he faces the charges. Innocent until proven guilty, right? We can expect to see more on that story as it develops, and of course, I'll be covering it as well. But back to Biden, and back to the major allegations against him and his family. Representative Comer noted that the investigations are actually ongoing right now. They're going to be, again, not only widening these investigations, they're calling for whistleblowers to step forward and other things like that, but they're also going to be proposing new legislation that they're hoping will bring an end to what they call influence peddling. That's the unfortunate practice where family members of government officials are able to profit by selling their ties to political influence, to the individuals in office. Now, we've repeatedly been told that nobody is above the law. That's been the slogan repeated over and over again as charges and accusations are brought against former President Trump and, what he frames as the witch hunt. And now we wait to see. Will the Justice Department, the same one making all these other allegations, will they, while this is happening, while Biden and others are facing these allegations and they're facing as well allegations of weaponizing the law for political interests, will they treat these accusations and the request for documents from the committee with the same due diligence that they've shown when the political interest is on the other side? Well, we'll see about that. That's all for tonight, folks. Thank you for joining us in this new version of Crossroads. Again, weeknights 7 p.m. Eastern Time on EpochTV.com. Also, join me for a replay in the mornings. Live Q&A right after that. That's at 9:45 Eastern Time. And in the next couple weeks as well, we'll be adding interviews, more segments to the show. Stay tuned for that. And then starting, of course, May 15th, coming up very soon, we're going to be broadcasting simultaneously on both Epoch TV and on NTD Cable. For updates, follow us on social media. That's at Crossroads_Josh. And as always, stay informed and stay free. Thank you.